Good morning and bonjour, my friends. Today, I'm so excited to welcome you back to another Tea and Jam with me. And I'm having a very French morning. I've put on my most French outfit that I could put together, and I'm eating chocolat. And I'm very excited because I'm bringing you a conversation with one of my most favorite humans, Camille Shafer, whom I have known for about 15 years now, maybe a little bit more. And no, I think that's right, 15. She's just really a beautiful, smart, artistic person who lives in the mountains of North Carolina and has had about a million lifetimes in one. So let's see. Knock, knock, knock. Camille, are you there today?
Yes, I am. Bonjour.
The original French broad.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever made that joke to you before that you are a French broad?
Yes, I even have a picture of my husband took a picture of me in front of the French Broad
Uh-huh.
on the road,
I said you are the French broad.
holding the sign.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Camille, we have so many amazing things to talk about today. I'm not sure how we're going to fit this into an hour because I remember one time I came to visit you, and we sat and we talked. I think it was for about 3 hours, and you took me on a tour of your house, which we're going to talk about. We'll just do what we can in an hour. So I like to start at the beginning. It's a very good place to start, as Maria von Trapp says. Um, where were you born? Because that is an amazing part of your story.
Okay, so I was born in Normandy, France, and in 1942, and yeah,
Nothing going on in France at that time. It was a very boring place to
no,
be.
that was on the middle of World War II. That was definitely on the middle of World War II.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
mom was very anxious to have me getting born.
Hmm.
In
You
fact,
have
she wanted me to be born on the 14th,
what?
because 14 is National Day, Bastille
Oh,
Day.
okay.
But I was late.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. Yeah. How many brothers and sisters did you have?
So I have a sister that is 6 years older than me, and I have
Hmm.
one brother which is 13 months older than me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was born, my brother was still in diaper when I was born
Wow.
for my mom.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. So when you were 2 years old, something very unexpected happened. What can you tell us that story?
Yes, yes. My sister had gone to the baker and to get bread in the 8th of September 1944. So I was 2 years old, and she picked up two little detonator on her way back home. And the next day, she was the one that was taking care of me. So, and we were alone. And she gave me one of those thinkings. Then it was just a toy. It looked like a pen. She said it looked like a pen, like a fat pen. And then I play with it, and it exploded in my hand. It was a booby trap, left there to maim people.
Yeah.
And she had to take care of that
Hmm.
at 8 years old.
And do you remember this when it happened?
No, I don't remember nothing. My sister remember some of it, but mostly. But uh, myself, I don't have no memory until the age of 10, and partly because I was not really raised by my family. I was sent in a re-education school run by the Red Cross, and they the social services told my mom that I will probably do better if I was taking care and be sure that I don't get scoliosis and all kind of things with the unbalance of not having the arm. So, but so I came back in my family. I was 10, and then I started to get few memory, and it took about up to 17 when I really get more. And really at 10, I kind of made the decision. I think, in retrospect, it's kind of sometimes, that's a long time ago. I'm 82 now. I made, I think, the decision that I was going to live an able life.
Mm. And what did that mean for you? How are you going to do life differently?
Well, you see, I don't have no memory before, so it's kind of hard because I was raised with 50 kids and then were hurt during the war. Some had only one leg, some were experimented on, and I mean, 50 kids, and I was the youngest of all the kids in that class, in that institution.
Mm-hmm.
So I suppose, and I don't remember anything. Don't remember the doctor, neither the kids, neither the place, the room. So I suppose, they were taking care of the oldest because I don't even know if we went to school. But I suppose, 50 different age kids. I don't remember if we did have, that was in the 50s. So I don't know if we had enough teacher,
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to know, but anyway, I don't think I was abused because I don't have any bad feeling about it. And I seem to have adapted when I came back home. And, sometimes I think your memory is carried by your parents or by the picture. And I don't have no picture and no story.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
story muse for you.
Draw out the story from you here. So, and I feel like I remember telling me at one point that they had tried to discourage you from wanting to go to college because they're almost treating you like you had an intellectual disability, but you were like, no, I want to go to school. Is my memory correct there that was some part of you?
Well, yeah, I was diagnosed as retardation. At the time, that's what you were saying. But that was earlier. That was at 10-year-old, they didn't know where to put me because I was, should I start at kindergarten at 10? So they kind of put me in a class and then kind of make me jump several, each year. Sometimes I will spend. So, but then after it was okay. But at the beginning, they really didn't know, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah, it's tough.
So I remember one of the times that I got to visit with you, you told me about how when you went to school and you were studying art or architecture, you wound up making an amazing discovery. You were studying cathedral and you discovered this like underground catacomb. Can you tell me that story again?
Yeah, yeah. I never studied architecture, by the way. Never
Mm.
had a course of architecture in my life, but I was in Beaux Arts school and I studied history of art. And one of the things that I was doing was to um, um, pay attention to labyrinth, and uh, and so there was some ideas, and there was a church that was a shorter, the cross, the church is made with a cross, and it was shorter. So they thought that maybe the human Christ then they designed the church was sitting, and therefore that what was shorter. And so at the place of the knee, usually that's where the labyrinth is because you do the labyrinth on your knee. It's like a punitive, stuff. And so we went to Amiens, that was Amiens, which is in north of Paris. And it's a beautiful cathedral. And so I was part of, we had the permission to go and dig under, and we did find the labyrinth underneath. It was covered. That was fascinating for me because I was like, wow, because I was not expecting to happen, but
Mm.
we did.
It's amazing. So you made this
I
incredible,
was so, yeah, yeah,
just part of your undergraduate studies.
yes,
Wow.
yes.
Wow. So then,
Mhm.
after you graduated, you made your way to Canada. And can you tell us about why you decided to go to Canada and what you were seeking to do there?
Yeah, right before to go to Canada, I was part of the student revolution in Paris in 1968. And so, and I was studying, to become a teacher and all this. But when 68 happened, that was a big revelation for me. It was a lot of growing up, because I already was kind of, late development from 10 to my Beaux Arts school. And then, so I had a lot of awakening in a social way, in a way. And then it seems to me that after 68, I just didn't feel like I was going to become a teacher in a high school in Paris after it seems to me like I had to find my life first.
Mm.
So I got the brilliant idea, the very unmature idea to go to Canada. And exactly, I really didn't have no interest in going to Canada. I wanted to go to Brazil because Brazil had they were dancing the mannequin in the street, the voodoo, the dos de morte, in Spanish. So I was fascinated by this guy. I was kind of a goth at the time, if you can think of that. You know, I was immature. I was 26, but still very immature, and so that's why I thought I should have a life before to teach other people. So then I went to Canada because then I will be in a continent, and I was hoping that I will find my way from Canada to Brazil. At the time we still hitchhike a lot, and I had already hitchhiked I had hitchhiked in Canada the year before in '67. I hitchhiked from Salt Lake City all the way to Vancouver and then back and then on the north and then to arrive to Montreal, which was the World Fair, Montreal in '67. So that's why I knew a little bit of Canada. And that's how I got the address to apply to get a teacher. And then I become a teacher. And, and in place of getting on the south, Canada. I went to North Canada, which doesn't make sense. And but that so there was no road, and so you had to go by boat or you had to go by plane.
Mm.
And boat in the summer because the St. Lawrence and the hub there is frozen. So the only way you can is land on the biggest plane was a 8 people place, and I mean 8 seat plane, and that was very rare. The plane that I came in was a four seat.
Mm.
It was that
So,
small.
so at some point, it was in Canada that you met Dave, right?
In Canada, Havre Saint-Pierre, in Quebec, and so they again they didn't really know what to do with me except okay, I was accepted, and I thought I was going to teach art, but then they thought, well, she's disabled, she should teach the disabled, and that was kind of, I was not trained for that. And so after 2 weeks they realized that no, she should really teach art and not babysitting the disabled people, kind of at the time. And then someone else, the school was run by some monks because it was a laik school, but some of the teachers were from the whole time. And so there was, many of them were religious, none yeah, it's fully backwards.
So tell us about Dave. I just introduced the notion of this character. We'll want to know, who's Dave? Why did she bring up Dave?
Okay, so Dave, I met Dave in Toledo, Ohio, and yeah, and and I become very good friend with him. So I was in Canada, and a friend of mine from South Africa. My life is so complicated, called me. Then she we were roommate in Paris together, and she had emigrated to Cincinnati. And after meeting Mickey, 10 days after meeting him, she married him. And 6 months after, she's telling me that the marriage is not going well. Could I come and counsel her? So that's why at Christmas, I came down to Toledo to counsel her. And then she said, "Oh, you have to meet this guy. You have to meet this guy." I said, "No, I don't want to meet this guy." Because she was always trying to fix me with people when she was my roommate in Paris. And it never worked. They were just people not my type at all. So, and so the next day, Dave came, and then he said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I'm counseling." And the connection was Dave and Mickey went to high school together. So Dave said, "What are you doing?" "I'm counseling Mickey and Sonia." And then, so he said, "But then, you want them to fight their battle and you want to get out." And because I was sleeping on their sofa, 68, 1968, So anyway, I was sleeping on the sofa and he said, "You want to get out?" And I said, "Well, I wish, but." Yes. So Dave said, "I have a spare room and you can stay in my place and I'll drive you in the morning." And I said, "Okay." And so I become very good friend with Dave. And then I went back to Canada. And then when it was my time to go to Brazil, I was on my way down. So I said, "Well, I'll stop at Dave for a little while and then go on."
Oh.
But then life took off. I was trying to find a life, and I did find a life. And so because of circumstances, I stay longer because there was some guys and then wanted someone to decorate a head shop. And so I stayed 3 months, and that's when I really met Dave fully much, getting to know him more. But then after those 3 months, I still was ready to go to Brazil. And that's when Dave said, "Well, let's get married." And that's my life. I didn't, I didn't believe in marriage. He didn't believe in marriage, but he said, "We can try." So, and it was like, by that time, it was it was like September. And he said, "You can still go back in the spring, but at least you can stay the winter if we get married." So I did.
I love it. Married so that you could stay for the winter. Did you say that
Yeah.
they wanted to, what did they want to decorate? They asked you to, so you were like the resident artist to decorate. What was it?
It was a head shop. Well, exactly. It was
Was
okay. A friend, yes, a friend. I mean, yeah, I have to tell you that story because it's too fun in a way. Mickey was friend with Larry, okay? And Larry came to visit with Mickey, during the time I was with Dave. And we smoked marijuana with Larry. And Larry had never smoked marijuana before. And 2 weeks after, he asked, can I come back? I want to talk to you. So we said, okay. So he came to visit, and he came with a full garbage can of marijuana. He was a rich guy. He was a son of those people that got those White Tower hamburger place at the time. So anyway, and that's when he said, I want to open a head shop. And so I said, okay.
They wanted you to decorate.
Yeah, life started to
Wow,
happen.
that's amazing. So what is the aesthetic of a highly designed Camille aesthetic head shop? I'm trying to imagine. Like, were you already
Okay,
doing
so
motifs then?
yeah, well, he had a Harvey Davidson. So that was a bowling alley, and he had a Harvey Davidson motorcycle. So we put this at the corner. It was like we made like a red brick road,
Mhm.
and then put the motorcycle at the corner. And then he had all kind of people that were doing little art things all along. Like there was a guy that was doing leather work, and then and he was also a trumpet jazz player,
Yeah.
so there was different little things. And then he asked me to do a display for jewelry, and we had old refrigerators, and I lined up with velvet, with black velvet, and then put all the jewelry hanging inside of that old refrigerator. It was pretty hard. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was my work.
Okay, so we need to move forward in time a little bit. So you and
Yeah.
Dave wound up moving to the mountains of North Carolina and buying a one-room cabin. Um,
Yes.
so there's a few things that we need to make sure we cover here. One, we want to, of course, talk about the founding of like buying the cabin and turning into what eventually became Azule. But I also want to make sure we talk about what it was like for you as a Frenchie and Dave as a Midwesterner to establish yourselves in rural North Carolina in what is notoriously, like, I grew up as the crow flies just 30 miles across the mountain, but would be like an hour and a half to drive there because the way that the mountains so
Mhm.
impenetrable. So in this area that's so notoriously not welcoming strangers.
That's
So
true.
either
Yes.
talk about the beginnings of like creating the space or talking about creating your community. Either way you want to take the conversation.
Okay. We were very, in a way, we were very lucky. We were the first, people say we were the first hippie, but we were not hippie. We were beatnik. My husband was beatnik, was old enough, that was before, right? Because that was in 72 anyway. And the reason why we decided to go to North Carolina is because we didn't want to pay taxes. It was Vietnam War, and I just didn't want the kids to get hurt. And that was also the Kent, the 4 kids at the university. So, and also the Lake Erie was on fire, because it was so polluted. So that was a reason to move to the mountain. So we were really at the beginning of the movement of the going back to the earth. And so when we arrived, we didn't know what we were going to do. So we just did like all our neighbor. We decided, well, we better grow tobacco. So we grew tobacco for 2 years to finish, to be able to survive. We had put all the money on the down payment for the land and the cabin. And so my neighbor, were very kind of welcoming, but part of the reason where they were really welcoming us, and I think it's pretty essential, is that there was those 2 old men that had to process a pig. And their kids were not interested at all in doing this. All their kids wanted to go to town to make money and make a living, because the place is very poverty, very, very poor uh, people, and Appalachia, and pretty far from town, So they asked Dave if he could help to process the pig. And we said, oh, yes, this is great. Can we take picture? So we were very happy to help to process the pig. And so after this, the community was kind of thinking that, we were learning from them, and we were appreciating what they have lived all their life, as their kids didn't have no appreciation for that, because they wanted to go and form a family and get out of the poverty. So, we were very, very lucky to be right in that community, and we were extremely accepted. So we didn't have no problem with our neighbor. And then we started to, that was at the time where everybody played music on their porch, the ballad singing, and Madison County is really known for that. So, because there was really no entertainment. So, the community was still very strong in a way. You still build barn together, or do quilting bees, and, all that kind of stuff. So we were really accepted. And then more people came, and then there was more friction there, But we were kind of the only one, so they were not against, we were not part of the whole gangs and was going to come and get the land, in a way. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So tell us about the cabin that became Azule. What was it? How did that start for you?
So we started to play music on the porch. We started to have volleyball. We started all this. And then at one point, and I was also, self-sufficient, growing a garden and all that kind of stuff. And that's also why my neighbors were very, very accepting, because they saw me really planting and canning and doing all the stuff that they were doing, And they were teaching me to do it too, because a lot of time I didn't know how to do that. And so after, but on the same times when 10 years after, since I was 72, so then to 1980, that's when most of the hippie came. And so then when there was more people, then we had volleyball every Sunday, and then we had a little food co-op where we order, the beans and rice, and do all the stuff then hippie done at that time. And so then I had to kind of thinking, what am I going to do here? Should I go to work and to go all the way in Asheville to become, I used to be an occupational therapist. So in Toledo, Ohio. So I thought maybe I'll do this in Asheville. And then Dave was kind of against it, because there is a big mountain to pass, Doggett Mountain, and that was right before they built the I-40, or that was at the time where they started to build the I-40. So it was still, very small road, and strong winter, snow and all this. So that's when I decided, well, I'm going to start to butcher the house and build it, and by that time, Dave was working at the post office in Hot Spring too. He was a clerk there, and so that was the time for me to do this. So yeah, and then we always thought, what are we going to do with the house? We don't have no kids, and so it was always, well, you'll have the retirement house, because we had a rocking chair on the front porch all the time. But
Right.
and also in my mind, I wanted to have to do occupational therapy. You know, exactly when I was an occupational therapist in Toledo, a lot of the patients had a back, you know, like CEO of factory will come, and then they will have a stigma of having been locked up in a mental ward. So
Mhm.
I thought, you know, I should perhaps take those people before they become completely sick, you know. But then you have to have a doctor and all this, and it was not. So that's when I started to think more about the art.
Right. Right. You could.
And so you know, which is also kind of related too, because you know the residents then come, you know, they are trying to find themselves and they are trying to know what they are going to do in their own career, you
Right.
know, and some come to, you know, they come from different purpose.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So you started to create Azule, and by the way, folks, Azule is the French word for blue. Camille's favorite color is blue. She wears it every day of her life. She's wearing a French work garb. That's her favorite thing. As she also wears mismatched tie-dye socks every day. Um, and so you started to build based on the Fibonacci sequence,
yeah,
starting with a spiral staircase. The house is built around that. That was the first thing, correct?
yeah. Yes, the staircase, but also the music studio.
But that didn't come
So the
first.
music
That was later.
The music studio, well, I think the music studio, it was about at the same time. See, I work with carpenters, and so, and we are, you know, 1 hour away from any hardware store, you know. So I have several projects like that. If we can't work on this, then we work on something else,
Right.
because you don't want the carpenter to work 1 hour and then not
You're
not
the
have nothing else to do.
you're the best
Yeah,
multitasker I've ever seen. You always have seven things going on at the
yeah,
yeah. So is the Fibonacci sequence something, a motif that you've had, like when did that come into your life as something that you wanted to recreate in your art? When did that come about?
yeah. Well, it comes from my love of cathedral in France. You know, again, the reason why, you know, uh, um, all the cathedral and all my building come from the cathedral building, all, you know, from the books. And I knew that, you know, you have to have counterforce and, you know, buttress. You know, all my architecture come from a very primitive way. And then also by observing the country places and then lasted, you know, they all have overhang and they all have, you know, to protect them from the rain. And, you know, it's very practical way of building.
Mhm.
And you don't need, you know, in a old time, people were building their cabin without ever going to a architecture class.
Right.
So I am from that same kind of, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess the reason why I was thinking that the studio came later was because when I came to visit, you were still working on it, but that was more the aesthetic. It was you were sort of going back and using the ear, doing the mosaic
Yes,
part. But and now I'm remembering that the studio exists already, but you were sort of doing sort of more of the art part. So let's go back and
yeah,
help understand what the Fibonacci sequence is, because they may be like, what are y'all talking about? So it's a phenomenon in math in the natural world that starts on like 1 + 1 = 2, 1 + 2 = 3, 2 + 3 = 5. So it's like exponential
okay,
growth, right?
yes, yes. Yeah, 1 + 1, 2, 2 + 1, 3, 3 + 2, 5, 5 + 3, 8. So you always, you know, and it's a very, it's more interesting than the circle to me, because the circle come to itself.
Right.
but the Nautilus turn around and go a little bit farther and upper too,
Right. So that's the
if you
chamber.
want to. And you can, yeah,
Right. So that's
so you can, in 2 dimension, you can just do it that way. But in 3 dimension, you can also make it go,
right. Right.
So yeah, so it's very interesting. It's really the Nautilus,
Right.
the shell.
The shell, and then the human ear is another
And
example.
the ear, exactly. Yeah,
I
yeah,
think um,
yeah,
acorns, or there's different kinds of places where the example of the Fibonacci sequence occurs. And so you have used that as a motif. And so I was
yeah.
also going,
Sunflower,
yeah,
the sunflower too,
oh, the
the
sunflower,
sunflower.
that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, so I was going to
Yeah,
show people a picture of um,
okay.
as the outside so that they can see. And this doesn't really show where the designs show up, but this is just this amazing, incredible, ever-growing work of art. And I really think of you as like the Howard Finster of North Carolina, because you are a folk artist, and your space
Mm-hmm,
is this ever-growing place that people visit.
mm-hmm.
And so now there's a sound studio, there's a quilt studio. Um, Tell
Dance floor.
right, dance floor. And so you made the decision in the late early 2000s. Um,
Yeah,
um, can't use the word retire because you're the most non-retired human on the planet. But you built a small apartment for yourself on the backside of Azule, and you turned the rest of the house over to a board, and you turned it into a nonprofit. So now
yes,
artist retreat that people can apply to, so they can go there and work on their own art. And now they're like, they
yeah,
might need supplies, but there's
yes.
lots of things that they can interact with there. Tell us about that process and why you wanted to do that and what's happening now at Azul.
Well, all this happened after Dave died.
Right.
He had multiple sclerosis, and so I was starting to what am I going to do with the house? And I've been building all this, but then it was time to uh, you know how we're going to function. And then I have I'm friend I did imported some riff-raff French people, and Guylaine is one of them, and so um, she started the residency
Mm-hmm.
of artists, and that was in 2010. And that's the reason why I built a little apartment on the back, to be able to really leave the house for just the artist. It's just, it look big, but it's a small place.
Mm-hmm. So these are some other
So,
lovely French expatriates that live
yes,
in the South that we know who have helped to transform into the artist residency. And so
yes,
you're right. We should take a moment to talk about the journey that you went through with Dave. So he developed multiple sclerosis, and this is
yes,
always one of the most touching parts of your story to me, because it really undergirds how much of a champion of uprooting ableism you are in our lives. Because you went through that with him as a person who also, but you don't identify as a person with a disability, really, like but
mhm,
you built a special bedroom for him with a window overhead. You want to tell us about that?
yes. Uh, he could not go anymore on the upper floor because he was in a wheelchair. And so he was on the main floor, and he was counting the board 1 to 10 and 10 to 1 backwards in French and Spanish and German and all kind of language. And that's when I realized he could not turn neither side. So I thought I should really get something better for him to look this. And I looked, and it was at the where his bed was at the part where there was a roof. So, and it was adjacent to upstairs. So I could add another room upstairs. And so therefore I could cut a wall on the ceiling for him to, and then build a kind of a greenhouse on top of it and put some skylight. And so like that, he could see the sun and the clouds and the star. Yeah.
Be able to see the.
So it's odd. Mhm.
I love that. I also love the story about you digging out the basement. And you were digging
Yeah.
out, you had counted the number, you had a goal that you were trying to reach, to have the basement done in time by winter before it would freeze, I think. And then you found your mom
No, yeah. I dogged it for 2 years and 3 months,
Mhm.
but I limited my amount of digging to 3 wheelbarrow. And because I know, I'm a compulsive. I am, I think I am OCD. Uh, so, but I'm using the compulsion to do something. So it's
But
not totally negative.
what was so about this story is that you had calculated how many wheelbarrows you had to dig out per day to get to your goal. And then you found out your mom was dying and you were going to have to leave. So you had to recalculate. And so you started digging it out faster.
No, no, I don't remember that. No, 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 no.
Okay.
Uh, I went to no the thing then was I counted the wheelbarrow, and so I had to have 1 wheelbarrow a day, and three the maximum. So if I had one, I didn't count anything. But if I did three, then I will say I got two in advance. And then the next day, I didn't dig a wheelbarrow, so I got only one in advance. And when I went to France, I had to have 30 wheelbarrow in advance, or otherwise I was going to be in deficit.
That's what I, that's what I
So,
was.
but at that time I already had a lot of wheelbarrow in advance. And in fact, when I finished the project, I had over 200 wheelbarrow in advance. So I was okay. So in place, it will have taken me 3 years to dig the whole basement, but it took me only 2 years and 3 months because I had 200 wheelbarrow in advance, over that. But it's very good because just the fact to have a calendar and to write, it kind of help you to you know it's almost you are playing with a number and with
Mhm.
a game. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm going to be in deficit. You have to do it. It's a very good way of keeping you to do it.
yeah, yeah.
And
So,
also, and I didn't know, but it's a good example for the kids. The kids that, all the kids of other people, will come and visit and say, oh, Camille is digging the basement, So they knew the value of that. And I didn't realize that until they came themselves with kids, the age that they were,
mm,
when they saw me digging, and then I hear them, you see, when I was your age, Camille was digging, and then I realized how important it was for them. For them, it was a big lesson. And they,
uh,
they could do all kind of stuff, and I didn't realize that because I was not doing it for that. I was doing it just to get the basement dug, to get the
mm,
space.
mm, mm. Um, so Camille, the reason why I'm having these conversations with people is because it's my sort of public research for this project that I'm doing. You got to see me perform a section of this project
Yes,
on
I
a little.
admire your work.
Oh, thank you. Well, I adore you. So this project is about my journey with work, and I really appreciate you talking to me about your journey and the work that you've been doing. Um, so the project has four tenets: passion, purpose, possibility, and power. And I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind to talk a little bit about one of these words, like maybe tell us a story about one, like if one of these feels the most resonant to you today
Hmm.
and something that
Yeah,
you learned about them.
okay. So
Passion,
passion, purpose, and then
possibility,
possibility.
power. So you just choose one
Possibility.
word and tell us a story from your life.
Wow. Possibility is a good one. Yeah, you know, yeah. So, wow, I don't know how it's very pertinent. I've worked with a lot of possibility in my life. So, yeah. Um, uh, for example, I don't think I will have done what I've done if I hadn't been with Dave, you know. If I hadn't met Dave and had the security of him, not the security might be a wrong term, but having the possibility to do things because he was there too, you know, and he has always been very supportive. So,
Mm.
you know, yeah, I don't think my possibility would have been as good without him. And a lot of my um, um, courage. Maybe that's a wrong word again, but you know, my intention is because, or my drive. That's a good word. My drive is because when I see possibility, so then there's this can happen. Okay, so then I'm working on this, and I think that's what drive me in a way.
Yeah. Well, can I reflect back to you what I see in terms of your how much possibility you bring into the world? And this might make me cry. Um, so I have a long and deep relationship with the Fibonacci sequence. I think I told you this years ago, but I won't fault you at all for not remembering this. So when you first came into my life, I was so excited when I learned about how you use this in your art making. When I was in the eighth grade, that one of the first times we had to write like a substantive paper, like a long paper, and make a presentation. It was for my advanced math class, and so I chose the Fibonacci sequence for my class and for my presentation. Um, and I got so into making the drawings and making my poster. And I just thought the notion of exponential growth over time was so beautiful and mind-boggling
Mhm.
that I got really into it. And then the day before I had to make my presentation, um, I was pretty horribly bullied in middle school. Um, I got into this situation where these two young men, well, I won't get into the whole backstory of what happened, but they made me chase them for some money down the hall, and I lunged at one to try to tackle him to get my money back, and I flew over his shoulders and I landed on my face, and I wound up getting carpet burn all over my mouth. So the next day when I had to make my presentation in math class, we didn't have masks back then. It was, clearly like 30 years before the pandemic. So, and I had tried to cover up the wounds with makeup, which made them just like green and ooze. So that didn't work at all. So I wound up
Mhm.
just taking a piece of paper and taping it over my mouth to try to cover up how unsightly my face was. And I got up and tried to, make my presentation, and I was so sad and like embarrassed for myself. And the teacher yelled at me and like made me take the paper off because she was having none of it. So that, I think in some ways you would make me want to, you would think it would make me never want to think about the Fibonacci sequence again, but for some reason that just like seared it even more deeply into me as a like a
Yeah.
memory for like this thing. Um, and anyway, so when I met you and I was so taken with the way that this beautiful phenomenon in our world and the universe is a part of your life, I started to witness how it's not just a repeating motif in your art making. It is a metaphor for your life because you take what starts out seeming like a small thing and you amplify it through your relationships, through your community. Like you are the Fibonacci sequence, Camille. You make
Thank
everything
you.
exponential growth. And I'm so glad to have the opportunity to see someone like you because we live in a world that wants to make people feel small and isolated. And you are the opposite of that.
Mm-hmm.
You hold up the megaphone to people. And the megaphone is kind of like a Fibonacci sequence too, you know, it's like goes from small to big. So
Mm-hmm.
I just really want to thank you for all you do to help people um, feel bigger, more expansive in their lives.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate you saying this because I see it with the resident that comes through Azule. And it's
Yeah.
so beautiful because I can see, I think they are inspired, with the place. And then it's interesting to see how they are willing to, oh yeah, I can do that. Oh yes, I can, you can see the I can,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know.
You are the great I
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
So do you have any
Yeah.
advice for me as I'm, trying to work on this project that's about, passion, possibility, purpose, and power? What do you think I should be thinking about?
Oh God. I think you are doing great because I see you, I see you with this particular thing, but I see you also doing so many other stuff, like and you are talking about, you know, expanding, but all the stuff that you're doing with people with disabilities, the taping of it and telling their story and the muse story, and now with the teapot. I mean, I really enjoy that, and that's why I've been, you know, fully always interested in what is she going to do next? What is going to be her next project? So yes, and I'm starting to listen the interviews that you had in the past, and they're so interesting. So you bring out of people, so much. Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't know. I think you are doing very good with what you are doing.
Well, thank you. That means a lot coming from
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
In the last few minutes, I know that people who are listening to this are going to want to know how things are going because of where you live and the recent impacts of the hurricane. And I know that Azule
yeah,
wasn't directly hit by the hurricane, but there's a
yeah,
lot of recovery that's happening in your part of the world. Would you tell us, really quickly about, because you've told
yeah.
me about how I mean, you talked about Dave worked at the post office and the mail is, or, I've heard that the mail isn't running like really super smoothly yet, that the roads are still being rebuilt. Will you tell us a little bit about what life is like right now?
Yes, yes. It's they're doing really a lot of progress, the reconstruction, and it's not just Hot Spring, but it's also Marshall, which is our county seat. So it's really the two, there is only three towns in the whole county. And so those are the two major. The third one is Marseille, which is a university, but it's also a very small. If you take off the university, it's even small, very small. But it's closer to Asheville. Hot Spring is the one that is farther, and it's definitely a town that depend of the river. So it's very interesting to see that the river really, yeah, it's it's still, and it hasn't come back to where it was. Some places the river is not even where it was, the creeks and and but the people really come together, very, very strongly. And so this is what, 6 weeks now, going on to 7 weeks, as I think. And so there is still this, we are together in it, we are together, but I don't know when this is going to fade out to life, and I'm very aware of that. Um, the the big down with the election was not really felt as strongly, maybe because of that.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard
People.
that the challenges is that people are not always trusting FEMA workers, which is very challenging. That some of the spinoff of the way that life is happening right now is that people are in these very strange media bubbles where they're getting misinformation and being told that FEMA workers are not there to do good, which is so unfortunate. It's really hard part of the way that life is happening right now. So that it's just making the recovery efforts so much more difficult.
And in a small town like this, you have the people that are going to survive, but then you got also a lot of people that won't, and I'm not saying that, there is also the one that really lost their life, too, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
But even their job, some are not, they are going to have to remake themselves. Some are going back to, like the hardware store. I suppose it's still going to be the hardware store, but there is some people that might, have to reinvent themselves. So the water, the power of the water, it's phenomenal. It's really, and then, so I'm talking about the two towns that are in Madison County, but then you get to the big town, and that's Asheville. It's been hurt too in a tremendous amount.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so how do we, so everybody is trying to survive them, wherever they are.
Right.
And we are including ourselves,
Yeah.
we're trying to survive too.
Right. So speaking of water, which makes me think of moisture, even though Azule wasn't directly hit, you all are trying to overcome some mold and mildew remediation because climate change has very much impacted, as these hurricanes are also a part of climate change. So you're having to scrub down everything and because you built Azule in the 70s when air conditioning was not necessary.
Exactly,
Uh,
exactly. And see, I am outdated. This is very interesting because I'm looking at it and I'm trying to learn it, but I am really outdated. And then by having to clean Azure, clean all the books and all this, we also have, I am a pack rat. I'm saving everything from the past, and so I'm known for that. And it's like Azule is cleaning all the storage of Azule, but and usually the family do this after someone died, and I haven't died, and they are they are cleaning all my leftover belonging. I mean, not, I still have my apartment and they don't have to do this. I still have my very personal things still, and I still plan on cleaning this because this has been the last 5 years. I'm trying to clean up the mess that I have created by doing these things, this Azule.
As someone who's had to deal with the legacy of multiple people having passed away and all of that stuff, I really appreciate you
Yes,
get on top of that while you're still on the planet. Um,
yes, the stuff from the parents of Dave,
yeah.
that are still in package, so yeah, and I really don't want to leave a mess. I'm trying not to do what other than I've seen, and then the grandkids come and say, "Oh my God, we have to clean all this mess," and so I'm trying to clean it myself before, but I don't think I'm succeeding very well.
I
Yeah,
I'm sure people are grateful, and I'm so grateful for you. I know that the people who are watching this, who know you, are grateful for you, and I hope that we've had a chance to introduce you to a few new people who will come on board the train of Camille adoration. You are the patron saint of our community, and I'm so delighted to have had the opportunity to spend some time with you and your beautiful blue French workers outfit again today.
yeah,
So we'll
that's
let us go for the moment, and we'll see you next time for yet another tea and jam with me. Goodbye.
thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I
Bye-bye.
really appreciate it. Bye bye.